Went to town 2 different trips and completely wiped the nearby town out of all the Loctite. Today is the first day that the tractor and planter are hooked up to each other for this upcoming planting season. So we're gonna start hooking up all the electronics, all the hydraulics, so we can get this thing ready to start planting. Being a 24-year-old farmer, I figured, and all the stuff I have to get ready on the planter, why not start in the stuff I'm most excited about and the stuff I like doing the most? So I'm gonna start grabbing all the controls and everything we need that I gotta install back in the cab again. We keep everything down here. We got our 2020 we're gonna need. This here controls the fold and the unfold of the planter. In addition, well, this runs the grain cart, so that's what came out of it last fall. The last thing we need is our clean sweep controller for our row cleaners. Head on in the cab. One thing nice, especially coming in the cab now, prior to all this technology we gotta install here on this armrest, is the cab looks very clean. It's easy to see out of this window here, but by the time we install the iPad, the 2020, and the clean sweep controller, we got 3 different things covering up everything on this window, so it's almost impossible to look out this side of the window when you're watching the planter out back. I got everything I can over here installed on the bracket. I forgot that on our 2020, I need to delete all of the previous year's prescription maps. Since we're doing variable rate planting maps across all of our acres, I need to delete out the old maps and upload the new maps, and then I can install the 2020 over here. Also inside the cab here, I'm trying to remember how I need to update the globe on this tractor. Up here, I need to update that, as well as the computer inside. And since I haven't really sat in a tractor like this for the last couple months, it's always a trick of trying to relearn what you forgot from last season. The nice thing about bringing this tractor in the shop is since we have internet all throughout the shop, there is no need in the thumb drive. We can just download the updates via the internet. So now it's searching for the newest update that it will run for this spring. Our planter is a John Deere 1775 NT, but most of our components on it are actually precision planting. A couple years ago when the planter was new, we stripped off a lot of the John Deere equipment on the bar and put on all precision planting. So the first thing we're gonna do is get our speed tubes down here and install those back again on the row units. Here's one of our speed tubes I took out of our box. We take these off the planter every winter, go through them, check the amps on the motor, as well as take all the belts off. That way these don't get excessively stretched out being in the speed tube all year. In essence, that box of speed tubes right there, in addition to an electric meter, that's what allows us to ramp up our planting speed from 5 miles an hour all the way up to 10 miles an hour and not lose consistency or our singulation across the seed when we're using our high-speed planter. So I'm gonna start popping all the belts back in all these speed tubes, adjusting the tension down here on this idler, and then we'll start popping the speed tubes back onto each row. Now that I got all the speed tubes on each individual row, I didn't go ahead and put the meter or the singulator inside each of the meters since we don't know which crop we'll be planting first, whether soybeans or corn. But now we're gonna go ahead and take this jumbled mess of hydraulic hoses, electrical outlets off the planter, and string them up into the tractor, try to get everything running on the hydraulic and electric side from the planter to the tractor. We now have all the hydraulic and electrical hoses and connections up to the tractor. If you can see here, I got all my Outback wrap markings. It makes it a little bit easier. It's these colored wrappings around each of the hydraulic hoses. That way it's just plug and play, matching the colors, going into the pressure and return. Now I got the air compressor hose hooked up. We're gonna start changing the tire pressure on the tractor as well as the planter. Since the tire pressure in the tractor is set a little bit different from when it's pulling the grain cart versus the planter. So I gotta start adjusting the pressure in all these tires. Last tires I gotta check the pressure on are the ones up here on the markers. Personally myself, The way I would like to run the planter is actually without ever having to use the markers, since I have all the field's boundary marked. But Dad won't let me take the markers off the planter at the moment, so hopefully I don't even need to use these wheels this year, but just in case, I'm gonna fill it up. All the tire pressures on the tractor and planter are now set. Now I wanna check one more, which is kind of silly thing here, on these wing tires. So last year we replaced these 4 wing tires because there were starting to be bulges on the side, which is surprising because these tires were new from the factory and only 3 years old. So what I'm gonna do is watch in between this plate here and this tire and make sure that gap in between there stays consistent on both sides to make sure that this tire itself isn't starting to bulge like the previous ones. The 4 wing tires all checked out, which, I mean, thankfully, because those were all brand new last year. So I grabbed the grease gun and we're gonna start pumping some grease into the gauge wheel arms now. Seems like every time you take a grease gun out, you get about 3 little things done, and then bam, you run out of grease. And that's, again, what happened here. So I'm gonna swap out, got another tube of grease here ready to go. We'll get back to greasing. This is always pretty satisfying. Oh yeah. Now that the grease job's done, the next thing we need to get done on the planter involves our road cleaners, and I know this job is not gonna be very fun. So we put these new Martin road cleaners on here with Precision Planting Clean Sweep last year, and the problem we've been having, the bolt that mounts this bearing and this wheel assembly here on the road cleaner, since it's not reverse threaded on this side, so the left side of the row unit, eventually as this goes along the field, it starts to thread itself off the bolt. So as you can tell, we started taking some of the row cleaners actually off already, and we're planning to put a little bit of Loctite on the bolts. That way the bolts will never become loose. So hopefully we never, after today, foresee us taking the row cleaners off, because with the Loctite on there, it's gonna become a lot tougher to wrench them bolts off than what it is right now. And I think last year in total, we lost about 3 of these large wheel assemblies out across some of our fields, and each one of them is about 200, 250 bucks if I remember right. And surprisingly, we never found any of them back when we were picking rock or even with the combine. And hopefully we don't ever actually find them back with the combine. So we're trying to alleviate that issue here ahead of the season. So I'm gonna go ahead and start tearing all those off. Then we'll lubricate a little Loctite on that bolt. Hopefully that solves the problem we've been having. As you might imagine, working underneath the planter like this isn't the most enjoyable thing, but thankfully, let me show you guys what we've been using so we're not always on our knees working on these row cleaners. So we got these 2 creepers, is what I call them. That way you can roll around on the floor. And when Dad went to town to buy some more Loctite, here, show him what you bought. He bought another thing to roll around with on the floor. So now in the shop, we got 3 different creepers. At least now they're all at a little bit different height, depending on what job you're doing. So that's what we use, so you're not always on the knees. But now we got 3 of them out here. I got nearly all the row cleaners and the bolts put on with Loctite, but we ran out of Loctite, went to town, 2 different trips, and completely wiped the nearby town out of all the Loctite, so I ordered some more on Amazon to run on the back 4 rows and just to have a little bit extra. Now I'm gonna grab the GPS globe off the tractor. This is the one that doesn't have RTK, so there's no extra antenna on the top of this one. This is the one that'll be steering the planter implement itself. So I'm gonna take it off the tractor, we'll pop it back over onto the planter. Put the globe on here. The GPS is now on the planter. Didn't quite get everything done on the planter today since we ran out of Loctite. And also I was getting sick of crawling around down on the floor, so we still have to space our disc openers on this thing. In addition to, I still need to add the GPS receiver to the planter tractor, but I'm not done mapping all of our fields, so that'll have to happen eventually down the road. But it's nice to be able to have the planter in the shop. It doesn't feel like we're gonna be planting anytime soon. If I take you guys outside, I'll show you. I was working in the shop today with only a t-shirt and a sweatshirt earlier, but as you can tell, the scenery has definitely changed. We're supposed to get about 8 inches of snow here over the next couple days, so that'll give us some time to finish up the planter. And that's gonna do it for today's video of HiTech Farmer. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and we'll see you guys in the next one.